Your smart speaker to play BBC Radio Scotland.
Well, it's a couple of weeks off, but it's something to look forward to. And of course, in the coming midweek, it'll be Wednesday night for the live action. Sports Sound on with 5 Premiership matches. More about that to come. We'll perhaps get to look ahead to those in terms of the action today. Celtic earlier with a 2-1 win at Eastern Road against Aberdeen. They moved to within 2 points of Heart of Midlothian. Rangers, well, more boos at Ibrox, but they do at least move up into 4th place in the table, ahead by a point of Aberdeen, and Falkirk remain in 6th. They've now opened up a 4-point advantage over 7th placed Dundee United. Will get reaction to that encounter from the guys who had the wonderful task of describing all the action from Ibrox. We'll hear from them, we'll hear from the 2 managers, I'm sure, as well. It is half-time at Amon Vale. I don't know if the entertainment value has been any better. Let's find out how the first 45 minutes have gone from Brian McLaughlin.
Richard, if you're an Aberdeen fan, because for the opening 45 minutes of this game, it's been one-way traffic, mainly towards Dimitar Mitov. Indeed, it's been Aberdeen stopper who's kept his goal intact. That's the only reason it is 0-0 here at Amon Vale. He's made 2 magnificent saves. The first one from Lewis Smith, who cut in from the he was down the right hand side, looked to be going into his left end, but moved to his right, fired the ball towards goal, and Mitov dived to push the ball away. And then a free kick just after the half-hour mark. Stevie May over the wall, the ball destined to be ending up in the bottom right hand corner of the goal, other than Mitov diving at full stretch to push it away. Other than that, again, many chances for Livingston. Danny Wilson with a header wide. Sissoko had a shot again pushed away by Mitov. Carlson, the only real shining light for Aberdeen, a couple of half chances from around the box. The first one deflected away from goal, the second one pushed wide. The stats, Richard: Livingston dominating possession, shots on goal, shots on target, shots off target, corners won, corners against. However, the only stat that counts, of course, is goals scored. And at Livingston here, Ammonville rather, it's half-time and it's Livingston 0, Aberdeen 0.
That sounds like it has been an all too familiar story for Aberdeen in terms of recent matches, their inability to put the ball in the back of the net. More to come from Brian, and he'll be updating us regularly. We'll also look back, of course, in the action from Easter Road. We'll hear from both Martin O'Neill and David Gray following that 2-1 win for Celtic. Just heading towards the final hour of the programme. We'll mop up events at Amon Vale. We will certainly look back on the action from this afternoon thus far, and plenty to look forward to as well. So stick with us through until 5 o'clock. Let's go to Stephen Craigan and Stephen Thompson, who are currently going through their copious notes, trying to work out what on earth they can say for the next 90 seconds or so. Come on. Give me your sum up, Stephen Thompson, first of all, of the joy you have just unfolded in front of you.
Well, it wasn't a great afternoon, to be honest, viewing wise. I mean, I think clearly you heard the displeasure of the Rangers supporters at the full-time whistle, and you can't help but agree with them. The performance was substandard in terms of creativity. It was really, really poor. Efforts in goal, hardly any. Moments to be getting off your seat, hardly any. And the players that were given an opportunity today, Ant-Mans, by Rami, Majowski, Asgard, the kind of front four, if you like, just really, really poor. So, you got to feel for Danny Rule. It's not his team, it's not his players. You can't come in and make this team better instantly. I do feel as though it's going to take transfer windows to do that. But from a Rangers supporter point of view, they're going to be looking at it going, this is not why we pay for a season ticket to come and watch this. It was really, really poor from Rangers, and from Falkirk. Do you know what? That's 1 defeat in 8 now for them. A really good defensive performance and a clean sheet at Ibrox, and it just keeps their momentum going and their really good season going. And towards the end of the game, they probably looked more likely. They were creating one or two wee half opportunities. So, and a really good day's work. John McGlynn will be very, very pleased with his team's performance.
He's going to be pleased, Stephen Craigan, with the clean sheet, isn't he? Because that's back-to-back now from away matches against Dundee United and Rangers, and that was the biggest issue for Falkirk in the first couple of months of the campaign.
What I would say is, as well as they defended, they didn't have to really work too hard for it. Just because Rangers didn't have any kind of imagination in the final third, did no creativity, they lacked penetration, people running in behind, it was all in front of them. When they were under pressure or felt under pressure, they just sat back to the edge of their 18-yard box, and Rangers couldn't find any way through. So yes, John will be delighted with that. I'd imagine deep down he will think that his players are better in possession of the ball than what they showed at times, where they could have been a bit more cohesive and a bit more fluent when they won the ball. They turned it over far too many times, which will disappoint him. But if you'd said to him coming into today, you'll go home with a point, he would have been absolutely delighted with it. The Rangers side, Richard, after spending what, £30+ million in the summer, it's crazy to say, but this team squad needs major surgery. They're so far away from what they're doing. I'm not too sure who you keep. You know, we talk about Nico Raskin and what he's got. You know, he's a little destroyer. He doesn't have the penetrating passes. He's tidy on the ball. He probably needs a flair player beside him so he can drop the ball off to them and allow them to go and work their magic. Top end of the pitch, lack of pace, lack of ideas. It was just looked like 11 individuals playing on a pitch put together for the first time. And I was saying to Tom ahead of the game, I don't know what kind of coach Danny Rule is. I don't know what style he wants to play, because he's having to crash manage. He's having to try and manage a set of players that he probably doesn't want. He doesn't think are good enough, but he has to try and put them into some sort of structure and hope something happens. And it's not happening at this moment in time. And we can say, well, they beat Livingston and they beat Dundee. Well, they should be beating Livingston. They should be beating Dundee. But they weren't exactly blowing them away. They were managing to just get over the line. And I just said towards the end of the game, his initial thought, or one of his initial kind of ideas, were that it'll be results over performances. And when you're winning games and ticking them off, you can get away with that for a certain period of time. There's no longevity in that. When it comes to today, when you don't have the performance, you don't get the win, there's going to be major questions asked. Not off the manager, but off the players and where they are. So it'll be interesting to see what happens in the next couple of months. But, you know, we don't like taking anything away from Falkirk, because they came here with a plan to do, they had a plan and a job to do. But Rangers, if they want to be progressive and they want to move forward, they have to be so much better in every single department.
I mean, you're talking about major surgery, but January clearly is not generally the time to do that, is it? No,
it's not. You would imagine January could be a month of loans, which is not really what you want to see at your club. You don't want to see 7-8 loans or 6-7 loans. Whatever you've got, you've probably still got some loans at the minute. If the right player becomes available, you may have to spend to go and bring him one or two, but are you better saving that pot of gold for the summer to try and go and spend? I think the next month will give us an idea probably of where they are, because I think they've got, you know, away to United next on Wednesday night, away to Kilmarnock, home to Hibs in the league, away to Hearts, home to Motherwell up until the 27th of December. So if they're in a decent position, then the board may throw some money at it. Otherwise they may just say, well, listen, we'll just roll to the end of the season, see what we can get out of this group. But you'd imagine when he's taken the job, he will have wanted some sort of guarantee there will be money to spend, whether that's January or the summer. But I think the 49ers have shown that they will spend money. They clearly didn't trust the chairman and the sporting director to spend it for them in January, if that's what they're going to do. And it'll be interesting to see who comes in and what kind of player can come in.
It does say an awful lot, doesn't it, Stephen Thompson, about the squad that Danny Rule has inherited. The way you guys are talking, the performances that have been seen, the booing that is once again rung around Ibrox.
Yeah, it does. And it's, you know, I mean, when the new ownership took place in the summer, there was a positivity around the club. New manager coming in, new board, investment, and building a new squad that they thought was going to be able to take Rangers forward and bring success to the club. And it's just gone completely in the opposite direction. So to lose your manager, sack your manager after just a few months, the recruitment process has been nothing short of a massive failure. So I mean, massive problems when it should have been completely the opposite. Did I go to you too quickly after you came back up the stairs? I've just been running
from relieving yourself.
Yes, I had to go to the little boys' room.
Yeah, so I was told you were back, but I didn't realise you needed 3 minutes to get your breath back.
As you well know, the nearest toilet at Ibrox is quite far away from the commentary position. So
yes,
I have been doing a bit of running. But anyway, Yeah, ultimately it's been a kind of disastrous start to the season for Rangers, and the problems aren't going to go away, because ultimately, as I said during commentary, these players have signed contracts. Some of them will be on 2-3 year contracts.
Yeah.
You're not just going to be able to empty them, so it's really difficult to do that. And then to bring new players in as well, it's not easy in the January window, so the problems aren't just going to disappear, I don't feel, for Rangers.
I mean, it is bizarre because they've only lost one game out of 13 now in the league. Same as Hearts. Hearts won, defeating 14, so they've lost fewer games than Celtic and Motherwell, who are the sides above them right now. They're unbeaten in 8, which is the second longest run of any team in the Premier League or Premiership this season. That just ended a run of 4 straight wins for them in the league. I mean, in the midst, I suppose it's the draws, clearly, Stephen Craigan, that has really.
I think they've dropped
Rangers
points in 5 games out of 7 at home. That's where it kicks in. And Rangers' problems previously was away from home, wasn't it? Where they couldn't pick up points, and that's where they were losing games, and that's where they were dropped. You were always reliant on your home form, and probably that's been, taken for granted for a long time, that Rangers will win home games. And they've dropped points against Dundee, they've dropped points against Dundee United, they've dropped points now against Falkirk. Hearts came here and beat them. So if you're going to be any kind of successful team, your home form normally, and the massive advantage Rangers have, clearly beyond budgets and resources. Look at 50,000 fans every second week cheering them on. It's supposed to be an intimidating atmosphere. The home team are supposed to go after the opposition and chase them down and not let them breathe. This team didn't today, and they haven't done this season. The games have been so evenly matched. It's been a long time, many years, Richard, since I've watched the Rangers team playing here, and every team that comes has a chance of winning, and they fancy their chances, and there's no fear. It just looks like 2 mid-table Premiership teams at times just playing against each other, and Rangers shouldn't be like that with the finances and the resources and the money they've spent and the so-called quality of player that they have. The body language of the players, throwing arms in the air when the ball's turning over, no one wants to take responsibility. I think there's a fear factor, a massive fear factor. A lot of players have had their eyes open, coming to this club, expectant, demanding win games. You have to win, you have to play hard, you got to run hard, all the things that Russell Martin used to talk about. This Rangers team aren't doing any of it, and they're just going through the motions, and they're just grifting through games, and they're not winning them, and that's why the negativity is building up.
We'll get reaction from Danny Roll and from John McGlynn. It was a Rangers 0, Falkirk 0 full-time scoreline at Ibrox earlier, 2-1 for Aberdeen against Celtic. We'll get to that one in a moment or two. And of course, the game currently still underway. The one remaining match of the weekend is at Amon Vale. It'll be early stages, second half. Brian McLaughlin is there for us. Any change to the trend you told us about during the first 45, Brian?
Aberdeen have been a little bit better, to be fair, Richard, in the second half. Jimmy Tillene has pushed Stuart Armstrong just a little bit further forward up towards Lazetic, but so far it's been Livingston again on the attack at the moment. Rates are down the left hand side, and they look very dangerous. And the Aberdeen defence have looked very shaky indeed. Tete Yengi has been a real handful for the back 3 of Devlin, Noster and young Jack Milne, but they just cannot find a way through to goal. Dimitar Mitov has been in excellent form this afternoon. He's kept Aberdeen goal intact. But yeah, a little bit better from Aberdeen. The 2,000 Aberdeen fans here have been in full voice for all of the day, but there's very little to warm them up though, Richard, I can tell you.
I just think you mentioned the back line there. I assume Graham Shinney's playing at left wing back, is he?
Yeah, he's been playing left wing back. The first half, Richard, they sort of floated in and out of a 3 and a 4. Here's another chance for Livingston. Sissoko it was this time with a shot just over the crossbar. But yeah, they floated in and out of a 3 and a 4. Graham Shinney dropped back into left back. But I mean, I'm just looking at them at the moment. The 2 centre backs, Jack Milne and Noster, are there, and Nicky Devlin's playing just ahead of them. It's a kick out, and Livingston have pushed forward, so it's going to be Dimitar Mitov who's going to clear the ball forward. But yeah, then they fall back into the 3 once again with Devlin, Milne and Noster. But yeah, Graham Shinney's been down the left hand side, Lopin's been down the right hand side. Armstrong, as I say, has pushed up. There's been very little up front for Lazetic to work with today. It's a little bit of creativity, you'd have to say, needs to come in the second half for Aberdeen if to get back in. Well, they are still in the game at 0-0, but it's been Livingston who have had by far the bulk of the play.
Okay, Brian, more to come from Brian Livingston. They've been playing pretty well in matches, of course, haven't got that win. It's a long time since they enjoyed success way back in early August. And I think anybody who sees them kind of feels that perhaps they should have had a few more points on the board. They'll be desperate to break down Aberdeen this afternoon. Can they don't somehow even get a shot on target, which would be an improvement, it would seem, on the first 45 minutes. So still Livingston 0, Aberdeen 0. Earlier then, our midday kick-off was at Easter Road. It was a good, solid, impressive start by Hibernian for the first 25 minutes or so, but Celtic began to find their way into the match and then just killed Hibs off with 2 goals in the space of a little over 30 seconds. Dyson Maeda with the opener, Arnie Engels with a brave header for the second. Martin Boyle got one back from the penalty spot for Hibs in the second half, and they were better again thereafter, but Celtic held on. They got the victory. They moved to within 2 points of Hearts at the top of the table with a game in hand. It should be a penultimate match in charge of Celtic this second time round for Martin O'Neill, and he gave his thoughts to Kerridine afterwards. And we'll hear from Martin O'Neill shortly, I'm sure. He gave his thoughts. David Gray also gave his thoughts. We'll hear from the Hibs boss in a little while, but I think it is worth hearing from the man who has revived Celtic's season right now. You have to say Martin O'Neill with Kerridine.
Martin, happy?
Oh, delighted to win. Was worried about the game. And beforehand, obviously, Hibs very, very strong and a good side as well too. So for us to win, particularly after the exertions of Thursday night, was really pleasing.
I thought first half particularly, it looked like the old Celtic. Now, by which I mean, if you go back a year, there was like the relentless pressing, there was results, there was energy, there was everything. You've brought that back.
Well, it's nice of you to say so, but I think that it's to the team's credit, it's to the coaches as well too. We won. We got the first goal through pressing, and it was lovely. The second goal was a magnificent move, and I think we just hit the post in the last minute before half time. Had that gone in, it would have been great for us. But the second half, I knew Hibs would come strongly with us or against us, and they get the penalty as well too. So it's a long way home, and then that's the time that sort of tiredness sets in. So for us to see the game through today was remarkably pleasing.
Some defending to be done as well, maybe a pat on the back for the goalkeeper, big save at the end.
Big save, absolutely, and his father was a great goalkeeper, but I'll tell you something now, he is not in his shadow.
He certainly isn't, and you've got guys delivering for you all over the pitch as well. I mean, it's a squad game, this.
Yes, we went in, other than Kieran, who had a sore toe, really bad toe, because he had the nail lifted off. And I was worried about him. Sarachi comes in, does great, particularly the driving run for the second goal. And but players have come in, went essentially the same side on Thursday evening, but knew that we would definitely get tired, and that's what happened. And I suppose maybe, as I say, Hibs scoring their goals so early on in the second half, certainly it puts you in the back foot. But we saw it through.
It's quite the sequence you've put together. Played 7, won 6, scored 18, I think it is. That's pretty impressive, is it not?
It is. I must admit, you just mentioned that. Excuse me. You mentioned about the first half where we played some really, really lovely football again. We bit reminiscent of Thursday evening as well too. Looked in control of the game, but you're never really. You're slightly uncomfortable in certain moments. And but really, I think it was the last 20 odd minutes of the game that I got honestly so pleased with the team that they saw this one through, because they could easily have let in an equaliser, and then the last 5-6 minutes it's mayhem.
And now you're within 2 points of the lead. You could go top depending on other results on Wednesday, and of course we now know that you will be in charge for at least one more game.
I
say at least, who knows?
Well done. Right, I've just done an interview there, but I think that Wednesday will see it through.
If somebody came to you and said, would you like to stay longer, would you?
Right, I don't think that's going to happen, and I think that the new manager coming in has got to get himself together here. Got to get his stamp his own personality on the team, things like this here, and obviously prepare himself then for January to try and enhance the squad, things like that there. So I think it's only fair.
I wonder, were the board to come to you and say, would you stay on in some kind of advisory capacity or director of football or consultancy role? The fans here, they were chanting your name at the end, but there is a constituency of the Celtic fans are thinking maybe they're letting you go too soon.
Right. Well, again, I feel that should be the manager's choice coming in. I know that when I took over at teams, I didn't want people imposing on me. So whatever players whatever backroom staff I take, this is it. Then I would work with the other backroom staff, and that was the way it was. And I would say again, that's only fair to the new manager.
One thing I've heard you say recently, and I take your point, was that if you were to say cheerio at some point, you'd like to do it at Celtic Park. It looks like you'll get that chance now on Wednesday against Dundee.
Right, okay. Saying cheerio is not a major issue for me. You know, I'll say cheerio when the board say, listen, everything's done and dusted now, and I will fine, and I'll drop away, and I'll be happy to do so. It's just I was asked a question in there, and they talk about sort of a legacy and things like this here, which has never bothered me. It really is now. It was the fear of failing here, which was my biggest concern as much as anything else. So, and as I said to you, legacy is for Jock Stein. The rest of us are followers.
One last one then, if you'll indulge me. I'm going to ask a slightly different question. We've seen you come back, we've seen you have success. What does this football club mean to you? Yeah.
Oh, everything. Really, absolutely everything, you know. So, and I remember the time that my father said, when I was trying to become a professional player, he said, if Celtic ever come for you, he said, you go there. And Celtic did come and watch me play when I was playing for a team called Distillery in the Irish League, and I was hopeless. So they never came back again. So the second best thing is managing the team.
And they came for you twice.
And they've come for me twice over a period of incredible. You haven't changed a bit. I think I have.
I think time's maybe been kinder to you than it has to me, but Martin,
it certainly has not.
We thank you for your time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Martin O'Neill, well, we'll have, it would appear there will be one more round of Martin O'Neill interviews midweek, and then it will be done and dusted. You've got to say, Stephen Craigan, look, a lot of us know Martin. We've worked with Martin. We know his history, his career, everything he has achieved, but he hadn't been involved in management for a number of years, and it wouldn't be a surprise at all that people had doubts when he came back in. My goodness, he's proved he still knows how to sort out a football team, doesn't he?
Well, what was interesting during that interview with Gerardine, he said he had doubts himself. And that was the biggest thing, because he had been so successful and going back to the club where you had your best time, your happiest times, and created your own history. To go back and then fall flat on your face, he wouldn't have liked that. So there's an inner confidence within him to say, I've got a bit of personality. I can go in and work with people, and more than anything, what they've done. I mean, I heard a comment during the game today that Dyson Maida seems a completely different player under Martin O'Neill than he was under previous managers, the previous manager, as is Rio Hatate. Sometimes that's just the personality of a manager, speaking to players, trying to get the best out of them, asking them what's wrong, tell them to put things aside, just small little bits of information. And Martin O'Neill has that in abundance. He also is charismatic. The supporters love him. He has helped the board out and the club out in such a difficult moment when the club is fractured. It's disjointed from supporters, the board, but he seems to have united everyone. The atmosphere has changed at Celtic Park since St Martin's went back. The atmosphere at away games has changed. They've started to win games. The fans are enjoying going back again. The players look like they're enjoying their football. They're getting the best out of their best players, and they're winning games and scoring goals, and everyone seems in a much better place. So he's bought them so much time by how he's conducted himself and how the team has played. I just wonder, will it have whetted his appetite to be a manager somewhere else? Possibly
I did
not.
wonder that. Yeah. I mean, Gerardine was so
it's just when
absolutely determined to get him a job somewhere at Celtic Park.
It was just when Gerardine said, one more question. I thought that's what the question was going to
exactly.
be. Do you fancy it again? He's been brilliant for the club in both spells.
Yeah. I mean, I think Gerardine was trying to find out if there's a kitman vacancy available just to keep him there. You do wonder. I mean, he's certainly, I said earlier, and obviously kind of listened to Martin O'Neill over very many years with a fair old gap, Tomo, but he's absolutely, he is a bit more relaxed. He's more the kind of Martin O'Neill that you see at events or socially, compared to what he was like as Celtic manager last time round. And do you think part of that is down to age, experience, maturity, but also down to the fact that he knew this was likely to be a fairly short-term thing?
Yeah, I would say so. And it's not always the case where you kind of hang on every word that a manager says after games, but you listen in, don't you? You want to hear him speak, and he's a great interview. I thought he said the right things there, because Kerridine was pushing him, and he rightly said that it's not his place now. The new manager's coming in, and he'll just kind of slip off into the distance, and he'll be fondly remembered for even this short spell that he's been back at the club. But he's right to say that, because when a new manager comes in, he doesn't want to have somebody of Martin O'Neill's presence kind of hanging over him. He's got to come in and be his own man and make his own decisions and show, as Martin O'Neill said, his own personality. So yeah, I mean, I think deep down, I think he would probably have wished he could have stayed on for the cup final, and an opportunity to try and win another trophy as manager. But ultimately, I think he'll have absolutely loved his short time back at Celtic, and you've got to say he's been impressive. The results have certainly been impressive.
Sorry, Richard, just final thing. What he's done as well is he's put a little bit of pressure on the next manager, because he's done well. And I know he won't have wanted to do that. Clearly he will have wanted to win games and leave in a high for himself and beat Dundee on Wednesday night and leave, if that's the case. But the next manager coming in has to follow what he's just left, which is a team who are vibrant again and winning games. There's an edge to them and an energy to them. You have to try and carry that on, which should be doable. But prior to Martin O'Neill coming in, sometimes you think that's the time to go in, when they're low and they're flat and you can pick them up. But now that they're flying and they're on their way back up, the challenge for the new manager is you got to keep that going.
And what he has to hope, I guess, is that, and you would imagine that he's sensible enough not to actually go in and try to change anything too much. Why would you want to change anything right now if you've got a team that is winning games and back to playing the kind of football we know Celtic are capable of?
I think there's a new manager coming into that. It's maybe just little, probably fine-tuning things. Just looking at aspects what you maybe prefer than another manager, whether it's a wide player coming inside or a midfield player overlapping in a certain area. I think they said Wilfred Nancy prefers a back three. Well, the last thing you can do coming into Celtic is suddenly change their back three and confuse everybody and try and upset the apple cart. So I think that's the sign of a good manager, when they come in and they tinker little bits here and there, they drip feed information in, they change the structure ever so slightly, but they allow the framework just to continue as it's been going. You don't want to take people out of their comfort zone too early on. It just causes confusion. You've built up a head of steam, you've got momentum going, you're moving forward, just keep rolling. If it come January, you might bring in one or two players just to add to what's there, but you're right, you don't want to touch too much. Summertime is when you can really stamp your authority on it. Your fingerprint should be all over the summer of what you're wanting to do and how you're going to change it. But at this moment in time, just leave it as it is, and as I say, just go around the edges of it.
I think we'll move on to Hibs, and we'll go back to Livingston and get an update from there. Still Livingston 0, Aberdeen 0. But what's also been impressive, Stephen Thompson, is the fact he's had injury problems. He's still had selection issues that he's had to deal with, and he's kind of coped with all that as well. I mean, the only disappointment was the Europa League defeat away to Michelin. The rest of the time, the rest of the results have been excellent, and the football, he's lifted it back up again, hasn't he?
He has, and I think a lot of that's not necessarily down to him as the manager as much as it is him as the person, and just him being around the players on a daily basis will have really, they look up to him, I think, and he gets respect. And just being around the players would have helped wee chats here and there, rather than anything he was doing, particularly on the training field, which I think Sean Maloney probably took a lot to do with.
Sure.
But just having him there, and as I said, that presence, and giving the players the confidence and belief, because as a footballer, that's the number one thing you need. You can have all the ability in the world, but if you've not got the belief, then it's pointless. And I think he's great at that, in terms of telling players that he loves them and to be lifting the spirits and just to get everybody feeling good about themselves. And you can see that's clearly happened, because it's been a turbulent period for Celtic, which we're not used to, and his job was to stabilise it, and he's more than stabilised it.
Well, if you missed it earlier on in the pre-match interview, Martin O'Neill confirming to Caerdine that he's going to be in charge for the game against Dundee. That's on Wednesday night, and then he expects that will be it. And although he never at any point mentioned the new manager's name, you have to assume that it will be Wilfred Nancy who will be taking over in the wake of that game against Dundee. If there are any developments, of course, over the course of the week, you'll hear about it right here on BBC Radio Scotland. You'll get it on Sports Sound on Wednesday night. You get it at the website bbc.co.uk/sportsScotland. We'll turn our attention to Hibernian in just a moment or two. Brian McLaughlin is still on live duty, of course. He's at Amond Vale. Livingston against Aberdeen. What's the latest, Brian?
Yeah, 69 minutes on the clock here, Richard. It's still 0-0. A couple of big opportunities, though, coming the way of Livingston. The excellent Tete Yengi created some space around 22 yards out from goal. Terrific effort. The ball destined for the bottom left-hand corner, but again, Dimitar Mitov diving low to push the ball wide off the target, and then seconds later, magnificent cross in from Lawal, but an absolutely brilliant clearance by young Jack Milne, who collided with the post as well. But other than that, you know, it was all Livingston. Livingston have certainly been on top. Aberdeen have made a couple of changes. Dante Bolvara and Kevin Nisbet have replaced Silvert Nielsen and Marco Lasetic. Aberdeen have been a little bit better in the second half, a lot more possession, but as yet nothing really to trouble the Livingston goalkeeper. And here goes Tete Yengi over halfway line again. Livingston, they've got a 4-on-3 here at the moment, but it's cleared away by Nosta, and it's still Livingston 0, Aberdeen 0 with around 20 minutes left to play, Richard.
And going by the stats that I'm looking at here on the BBC website, once again Aberdeen without a shot on target during the match thus far. Livingston coming close, but it is still goalless in that one. They'll be desperate to end this long run without a victory in the Premiership. Hibernian made it back-to-back defeats this week. They lost 2-0 to Motherwell, of course, on Tuesday night. They lost 2-1 at home to Celtic this afternoon. We were chatting a fair bit about Celtic and about Martin O'Neill and everything that has happened there. Let's hear what David Gray made of the 2-1 reversal.
David, what's your overall take on your team's performance, and I wonder whether you feel you should have taken something today?
Yeah, I think for very large periods of that game I thought we were on top at times. I thought we definitely deserved to get something from the game. I thought then when I take the emotion out of it and I reflect and I watch the game back, I think everything I asked the players to do at the start of the game I've seen. So we were aggressive, we started on the front foot, created the best chances at that point. And then the chances come probably against teams like Celtic, you need to take them, so that's something that has maybe let us down a bit today. And then obviously we give away a poor goal, which is a genuine mistake, which happens in the game. Then you lose a goal straight after it, so that's something that we've just spoke about. It happened on Tuesday night, happened again today, but I think it was a bit different today because the first one was a genuine mistake. They started really well in the game, and the game plan was to be brave and try and get after Celtic. Because we had so much success, I think the players kept doing that. And we lose a goal straight away off the back of that, so we didn't quite get the press right. Second goal, but then you're giving Celtic a 2-goal start, which is a very difficult thing to do. And then up into half time, we probably needed half time because I thought Celtic were in the ascendancy then. The players got a wee bit spooked by that, got in at half time, and then reminded the players of why we got success in the first half and what we needed to try and do. I thought I seen a really positive reaction second half. Got the goal, which we thought we deserved. The pressure was coming, and then from then I thought we were the only team that was then going to go and get another goal in the game. So I can't fault them for that. Big chance then in the game as well that we don't take again. But all in all, it's a very different feeling. As much as it still hurts because losing games of football is never nice. From Tuesday night to today, the players were, if I think back to what I asked them to do, they definitely gave everything today.
Yeah, I think there was quite a lot to like about your team today. I wonder then, is it all the more frustrating that it was self-inflicted to a certain extent, certainly with the first goal? Yes, but I take responsibility for the first goal as well because mistakes happen. The way we try and play out, I think the pass that the goalkeeper plays into the fielders on to play it. I don't think if he bounces it out, he doesn't lose his foot and then we're out and everything's okay. He loses his foot and the slip, Celtic capitalise on that. So I'd rather that than we kick up the pitch at times, and clearly I don't want to lose goals. That is self-inflicted for that point of view. The second one's something that we need to learn from quickly, because when you do lose a goal, especially against Celtic and Rangers and teams where you can be under a bit of pressure pretty quickly, you need to make sure that you don't lose a goal straight away again. That's really important. The next goal in the game becomes huge.
But then to find themselves 2-0 down, and then the reaction was certainly there again. So I seen the reaction from Tuesday night when you think about the first 30 minutes of the game, or whatever it was, 25 minutes. And then the second half display, certainly players should take belief from the fact that you went toe-to-toe against a very good Celtic side that ended up, not hanging on, so to speak, but we created the best chances, and I believe should have got something out of the game.
We spoke pre-match about the potential for back-to-back defeats. I was meaning it in the sense that it's a while, it's a year, just over a year since that's happened to you. That says a lot about the progress you've made in that year. Is it just a case of, as you're alluding to there, just believing in what you guys are good at?
Definitely. I think I've just actually highlighted that to the players as well, from the way that you've just described it as well. So it is the first time we went back-to-back in over a year, which shows the progression in the football club. It shows how good a run we've been on, but also how quickly things can change. So we need to make sure that you stick together, you keep working hard, take the positives from today, but then still look at the areas in which we let ourselves down today, because we're not quite there yet in certain areas. But at the same time, I do believe we deserve to get something out of the game. We've got the opportunity now, another game coming up next week, to try and put that right. And I think, as I said, the players believe they can do that, and they should take the positives from today, as much as we don't enjoy losing games of football.
David, thank you very much.
Thank you.
David Gray, it is disappointing for Aberdeen, but actually Scott Allen was talking during the commentary, there are ways of losing matches, and while it still hurts, Aberdeen put an awful lot more into that one. David Gray saying that he felt they deserved to take something from it. They had a strong start, and they were the team more likely to score, it seemed, pretty much throughout the whole of the second half. Defensively, it was a comedy of errors in terms of that first goal, but then you've got the two goals within 30 seconds of each other. I don't know if the two Stevens got the chance to see.
I caught the first one in the press room. I caught the first goal. It was a poor decision.
I don't know how many times we have to see these kind of goals before managers decide that maybe it's not clever to have the goalie pass to a man who was under pressure 25 yards from his own goal.
Yeah, it was a big error, and he probably should have just put his foot through it. But yeah, you can't gift goals when you're playing against Celtic to them. You've got to make them earn them, and he was right to point out as well that the reaction when you go behind, it's important that you try and kind of galvanise and not lose another goal. But it happens so quickly that they get the second, and from there you're really facing an uphill battle. But they'll take a lot from it. I mean, obviously I didn't catch the second half, but it sounds like the performance level was there, and he's done a great job. I mean, and you look at the table, I mean, they're only a point off kind of third place at this minute in time, and they're right in the mix. So he's done a great job as David Gray. Back-to-back defeats is a setback for him, but again, pointed out by Kerridine there, it's the first time that's happened in a long period of time. He'll be looking for a reaction on Wednesday night. I've not actually got them in front of me.
They're not in action. They're not playing.
Right. Well, there you go. Glad I did my research.
I think it was a Livingston game they brought forward, Richard, wasn't it?
Yes,
I think it was,
right.
yeah. Let's try and move it forward. I mean, it's the manner of the goals. That's the bit that hurts most. When you play the Old Firm, that's what I said during this game here with regards to Falkirk. John McGlynn's message at half-time, you've worked hard, you've stayed in the game, you've been under a little bit of pressure, albeit they haven't had lots of chances, Rangers, but whatever we do in the second half, don't give them any encouragement. No individual errors, no silly mistakes, try and take a risk that is unnecessary, and suddenly you find yourself behind, the crowd go up, and it becomes really difficult to get back into the game. So Falkirk managed the second half really well here. Scott Bain had a couple of balls out from the back. It's always goalkeepers. He had a couple of square balls out, balls almost being intercepted. That was it really. Centre halves didn't take any risks, just played it forward when they had to, made sure they played their part and allowed the centre forwards or the forward players to try and win the game for them. When you look at Hibs, a straight ball into the middle of the pitch puts the Hibs player coming to receive the ball under all sorts of pressure, and in the second one dropping a runner crossing the left hand side, and Jamie McGrath has switched off for a second. Arne Engels is away for him. So the basics of football, you've got to track runs, and I always said to young players, when you're coming to receive the ball facing your own goal, you can only play one way. You can only play back to where it came from, because anything round the corner, around the side is a risk, because you can't see it. Your vision doesn't allow you to look that way. So when David Gray assesses it, you'll think, wow. But also the timing of the goals. He had said it himself. It happened on Wednesday night against Motherwell. 2 goals in 2 or 3 minutes. 2 goals in 30 seconds today. You talk about learnings from games and trying to carry it into the next one. When you go behind, you've got to shut up shop. Make sure for the next 3 or 4 minutes you clear your head. You do not concede a second. That's happened in their last 2 games. That's something they will certainly learn from now, because it's happened in 2 successive games in 4 days between them. So that's the big learning curve from that I would imagine that will not happen again. However, when you give Celtic a 2-goal lead, you're always having to chase the game and open up and play catch up. And that was Hibs' problem early in the season. Even in the European games, as well as they played, they were giving the opposition a lead, particularly at Easter Road, and then having to chase. They were giving everything in the game. I remember the Dundee United game, they were losing 3-1, back to 3-3, but always get the game's too open. There's too many chances, like a basketball game. Managers don't overly like that. Fans love it. Managers don't overly like it. So how they manage the games moving forward has to be better.
Yeah, it'll be. I mean, they've got quality clearly in that squad. Aberdeen, you'd anticipate them bouncing back and recovering from those back-to-back defeats. But as the boys were saying, they're handily placed right now, and certainly will be keen at the very least to put in a real challenge for European football for next season. So Hibernian 1, Celtic 2. We followed that with live commentary from Ibrox, largely uninspiring, certainly for the home side, who were booed off once again. Rangers 0, Falkirk 0 at Ibrox. Going to get reaction to that one now. It's still incidentally goalless between Livingston and Aberdeen as they move towards the final 10 minutes of that game. Why don't we get a wee update from Brian McLaughlin?
Yeah, Richard, 10 minutes left to play, but Aberdeen certainly ringing the changes and certainly changing fortunes as well. Clarkson, Milanovic and Keskinen have all come onto the pitch, and Milanovic just a few moments ago, a terrific right foot shot, and here it goes, a goal for Aberdeen, and it's Nicky Devlin at the back post there who's headed the ball into the back of the net. Let's talk about the changes. Clarkson, Milanovic and Keskinen have come on. Oshish, Armstrong and Carlson have all gone off, but the cross came into there and it was at the back post. Nicky Devlin all alone nodded the ball back across goal beyond Pryor and into the back of the net. The Livingston goalkeeper remonstrating at the moment with referee Don Robertson, but Aberdeen, who've been under cosh so much this afternoon from a Livingston side who've dominated throughout, but with just 9 minutes left on the clock now here at Almondvale, it's Livingston 0, Aberdeen 1. Quite remarkable, Richard.
Second goal of the season for Nicky Devlin, who nets against his former side. That would be a heck of a result for Aberdeen, given everything we'd heard about the game so far and how dominant Livingston had been. 1-0 for Aberdeen, 8 minutes or so to go, plus stoppage time in that one. Right, more reaction about the game at Ibrox. 0-0 it finished. Falkirk heading through to Glasgow and picking up the point and another clean sheet. This was the reaction after the game of the Falkirk manager, John McGlynn.
John, I had a quick chat with one of your coaching team just at full time there, and he was disappointed with the way you played in that game. I think it shows just how far you've come. You got a point at Ibrox.
Absolutely, yeah. We are a little bit. Let's not exaggerate too much. We're a little bit disappointed because we think we're better than that. We think we can pass the ball better than that. We think we can retain possession better than that. We did at times, and when we did, it looked good. But we turned the ball over too much. I mean, it would be just coming back and waves the attack from Rangers without too much cutting edge. I think they would admit that they've not really worked Scott Bain as much as they would like to have done that. I think we're no far away. I don't think we're that far away from being a right good side, and we've got to take belief from coming here. It was very much a dogged performance from every single one of our players. They were so determined, to keep that clean sheet in the second half. All the usual characteristics, blocking things, heading things, stopping crosses coming in, getting to crosses, then when the ball lands at the edge of the box, getting out to it, stopping it coming back in again. When it did, getting to it, and when moments when we could actually, take good possession of the ball and pass the ball, I felt we did that reasonably well, but we did actually turn the ball over too much, so a little bit, contradicting myself to a little extent, and that's where we feel that we could have done better, because that's the type of team that we are. But it speaks volumes for the players that were a little bit disappointed, but overall we're very proud of them. 100 years since Falkirk won here, so it's not very easy coming here. So that start would show that, and so we felt we had a good chance today. We wanted to try and win the game. And we had a little bit of go towards the end, 1 or 2 opportunities.
I think you said before the game you didn't want them to be caught like rabbits in the headlights. I think off memory, I can only remember one clear save that Scott Bain had to make, and it just shows how well you were structured at least. Yeah,
but that's part of it. I thought maybe we were a little bit caught in the headlights because we got to retain possession of the ball better, and we didn't. And that's the thing, that did we really have the belief? try to give them that belief, and they've got to take belief. You know, we're doing so well. We've got one defeat and 8 in this league. You know, it's and that's away home to Celtic. So, you know, that's why we're a little bit disappointed, because we are actually better than that. Even great respect to Rangers. You know, everyone knows the history, so there's no point going there. But yeah, we believe that we're a better team than we actually showed today. However, you know, so proud of the players, the fans backing us there. They're going home happy, because, you know, at the end of the day, it's a good point.
It's a very good point. I think finally you've been saying you don't want anyone to take their eye off the ball at this club. It's working for you.
Absolutely, yeah. We go to the next game and that's it now. Motherwell are a very good side. They're showing that week in, week out. We watched them on Tuesday night against Hibs and they were excellent. I think everyone was raving about them. So we have to dust ourselves down and get ready for that.
Thanks, John. Well done.
That's John McGlynn. That Aberdeen goal stood, incidentally. I think there was quite a lengthy VAR check for a possible offside, but Nicky Devlin's header has been confirmed. So Nicky Devlin with a goal, second of the campaign, scoring against his former side. And deep into the final 10 minutes of that one now, it remains Livingston 0, Aberdeen 1. Stephen Craigan, your thoughts on John McGlynn's assessment of the game there?
I think when I spoke to you after the game, I said that John would be disappointed with regards how they handled the ball, because his team are an awful lot better than that. I just wondered, was it because a lot of players haven't played here in a competitive game before, that maybe they were a little bit overawed by the whole occasion, but they just seemed to get the ball, turn it over, and it allowed Rangers to build some sort of momentum in the game without really creating opportunities. But they were sitting so deep, Falkirk, where they got the ball, they were trying forward passes, they were playing it back to the goalkeeper, they were kicking out of play, and that's not how they are under John. That's not how they've been. You know, you'll have watched them in League One. I've watched them in League One. I've watched them in the Championship. They've grown as they've moved up the leagues. They've adapted as they've moved up the leagues. But ball retention is one of the things that he's adamant this team have to be good at. He signs players who can handle the ball, not always taking risks around your box, but just who can handle the ball. And they didn't handle it very well in the first half. But they got through it. They managed to weather the storm of possession that Rangers had without conceding a goal. They got a little bit better in the second half. The ball stuck a little bit more up front. They were able to get midfield players into it. But still, I kind of thought deep down, having watched John and spoke to him on a number of occasions and listened to him speak how he wants his team to play, that he would have a little urge to be disappointed with how they play. But ultimately, when you come away from here with a point, you can think, well, okay, it's another point in the road, it's another game unbeaten, we can try and build on that. The players won't be the same when they come here next time around. So he takes a positive from that side, but deep down he knows he's got players who can perform better on this stage than what they've shown this afternoon. But ultimately they leave with a point and they'll be pleased.
Yeah, Martin had said, Tomo, he said he'd been talking to one of the backroom staff and they'd expressed a little bit of disappointment. I mean, John's kind of quashed that a bit. Yes, I always want to see my team play a bit better, but let's be honest, given the history of Falkirk at Ibrox, he's not about to get too despondent about only taking a point.
No, I think, you know, if you get out of Ibrox, well, maybe not so much this season, but if you get out of Ibrox with a clean sheet and a point, and it keeps their good run going, they've got a lot of momentum. He pointed out 1 defeat in 8, and that was against Celtic. Then for a team that just come up without having invested too heavily in their squad, it just proves and reiterates and reinforces what a good manager he is. And in terms of organisation today, his team were excellent. Their spirit, their togetherness when they were having to defend in tough moments was really, really good. But yeah, we pointed it out during the game from very early on that they weren't keeping the ball as well as you'd expect them to, for whatever reason that might have been. Everything was just a bit rushed and too many giveaways and turnovers. But ultimately, you cannot leave Ibrox having a clean sheet and getting a point and being too disappointed. I think he said he was contradicting himself a bit. He'll be delighted with the afternoon's work. There's no doubt.
I mean, I
that.
guess the scenario you painted there, you know, in terms of, right, it's not quite working for them in the way that they normally like to play. And I guess you as players, boys, you'll have experienced that many times. For whatever reason, it just isn't going the way you want in terms of the way you want the game to pan out. You then simply have to find another way. I say simply, but you then have to find another way, don't you? Just
well, it's a sign of a good team.
Sure.
It's the sign of a good team, Rich, and that they when you're not playing as well as you can play, to be able to still get a result or get a point or get whatever from the game. And you know, there's times when individually you're on the pitch and things aren't going well, so you double down in the work rate and you make sure you're doing all the things off the ball as well as you can do, even if you've got a turkey touch like me. Then you just keep working hard on the other aspects and make sure you're doing your job for the team. And I think that, collectively the unit did that today. Yeah, they can play better, but they got all the bits that they needed to get right in terms of the way that they defended and worked.
0-0 it finished, so that was the response we heard from John McGlynn. They're now heading towards full-time whistle at Almond Vale. Still Livingston 0, Aberdeen 1. That Nicky Devlin goal, his second of the season. Maybe quickly to Brian, just to see exactly where they are with that one.
Yeah, 90 seconds left, Richard, and it looks like that goal by Nicky Devlin, his second of the season, is going to be the difference between these two sides. It was also, I would say, a match winner for Aberdeen just a few seconds ago, because it looked like Robbie Muirhead was going to connect with a ball that was played through and goal, but Devlin intervened and managed to get the clearance. He took a real sore one as well on the right ankle before the ball was cleared away. But yeah, Livingston, they've had so much control of this game, Richard, but they just couldn't find a way through on goal. And Aberdeen, fair play to Jimmy Tillini, rang the changes, and those changes certainly worked for him this afternoon in the second half anyway, because they lead by 1-0 and look to be heading back north with all 3 points.
Well, you heard the young fan in the background there exhorting his team. Come on, Livingston. They'll be hoping to get something. Aberdeen just simply looking to see the game out and get a victory, which would move them above Dundee United and up into 7th place in the table, which is a considerable improvement on where they were in the earlier part of the campaign. So into the final minute of that one, still 1-0 Aberdeen at Livingston. Let's go back to Ibrox then at the reaction of the Rangers manager, Danny Rowell.
Danny, I think when you came in you said winning is everything right now. What did you make of the performance today?
Yeah, if you play it raw, then you ask about what you can improve. I think this is a part. We had some good moments where we come between the lines, but then our decision making was not always right, even in our transition moments. Yeah, and then in such a game, then you work. I cannot blame my players for the effort. I think they put everything on. But then you have some moments where you win the ball, you lose the ball again, and it destroyed a little bit the rhythm of the game. Yeah, at the end, we want to win. If we didn't win, then it feels not good, and this is the part.
The players, or some players, have to take more responsibility to make things happen, particularly going forward.
Yeah, I will not repeat this again. This is exactly the point. When you feel 100% confidence, when you are on your highest level, then you make exactly the right decisions. And this is at the moment you see some players think too much. In some moments it's not natural. And then I think there was one situation, there's one good situation, you make a good move, you overplayed players, and then it stops again because we turn back, or we make extra pass, or we couldn't control the game, and then it looks like this, and this is a part of development. I think normally after 4 wins in a row, you should growing in this confidence. I will not say we played well in all the phases. It was not everything wrong, but then in the final moments in the game where we are not 100%.
I think 4 changes today in the forward areas. It felt like maybe some of them didn't have confidence and maybe didn't take their opportunity. Is that fair?
Yeah, of course. You change. Sometimes you have to change. I think there are also some reason why you have to change. And then you see some performances. I think for me, Nedum was a good example. He was trying. He had some moments. Other players, they try, but it looks not so light with 100% confidence. And then, yeah, you come to half decisions, and half decisions in football is always not the best ones.
Is it also fair to maybe say, obviously you've assessed the squad, the window's coming up in January, that maybe some players have to show you more if they're to have a future longer term at Rangers?
Yeah, I think this is also part. We have a long December where we have to work with this group. But of course, we have also to look what we can do for the group, what makes sense, and I think the picture goes clear for me. Yeah, I think the next 4 weeks, I know you want to speak about the transfers and something like this. We have to go the next 4 weeks with this group. I see positive examples, but I see as well players they can't use at the moment the opportunities.
Just finally, to the Rangers fans, clearly they're frustrated at the outcome, and I think they've only witnessed 2 league wins here this season. Obviously, you're not responsible for some of those. What would you say to them just now to maybe offer them some hope that things will turn and things are going in the right direction?
Yeah, I'm generally always positive. I see the things what we can improve. I see the things in which direction. I think now I know it's not helpful for every game, but now from the last 5 games we have 3 clean sheets. I think this is a big part as well to winning games. But then for the excitement, for entertainment, for winning clear such a games, create more chances, we have to work on it. And yeah, after 6 weeks, I have a good overview. I know where we are, but it's my job and my responsibility to improve. I can't improve it in 1 week, but for me, and this is my biggest wish, that we look back on one point in the future and say, yeah, from this point it was the 0 point and now we're building up something. If we do this, then I take all the frustration sometimes, all the disappointment, but when you speak about a way, then you have to understand also the time schedule from which point we are, and this is what we should take together. Because the togetherness helps us in the future.
Thanks, Danny. Cheers.
I mean, he certainly didn't duck anything there, did he, in terms of what he is seeing right now and his assessment of the squad. He said we need to look and see what makes sense in January. But the phrase there when he said the picture looks clearer and clearer for me. I'll get the boys' thoughts on that in just a moment. The full-time whistle has gone at Livingston. Brian.
Yeah, it's finished here. Livingston 0, Aberdeen 1. Nicky Devlin with the only goal of the game, coming 10 minutes for time. The ball played in from the left-hand side. Devlin ghosting in at the back post to nod the ball beyond prayer into the back of the net. It was a lengthy VAR check for offside, however the lines were drawn and Devlin was deemed to be onside. Prior to that, Livingston really did batter the Aberdeen goal throughout the game. Dimitar Mitov had some excellent stops throughout the game, none better than a Stevie May free kick from 25 yards, the keeper diving low to his right hand side to push the ball away. But it's Aberdeen who head north with all 3 points in the bag. For Livingston, the wait for a win goes on. August the 9th was the last time David Martindale suggested a win, and they remain rooted at the bottom of the table with only 8 points. It finished here at Almondvale, a very chilly Almondvale, I have to say, Richard. Livingston 0, Aberdeen 1.